Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Indy Investor Pod. I got Randy Placencia here joining me today. It's been a while, Randy, since you've been on a pod, man. So how's it going?
Yeah, it's been a long time. Used to be hosting my own episodes, and yeah, it's going well. I'm glad to be back on here. I know when you and I hop on, it's usually fun because it's more casual and it's kind of like a normal conversation between us, like we would have every day. So yeah, it's good, man.
Yeah, so no, it's great to have you back on here. I know it's been a little bit since you have been on, and it's been because you've been busy. So
Very busy.
yeah, I want to do a little update on just kind of what's going on with us and just our team and kind of what we're doing and stuff. So that we've been in a little bit of a transition. So Randy, the reason he stepped away from the pod for a little bit was basically because he was managing our sales team. He kind of took on a different role. So he's our director of sales, kind of heading up. Took some time to basically kind of focus on our people that are going out there and finding us our properties, finding us the properties for our investors and things like that. So he was really focused on that pretty heavy. Alicia was doing a great job in dispo and things like that. He was still overseeing her as well. Since then, we've kind of made a transition where Alicia has stepped away from the simple team, where everybody's on good terms. It's all
Yeah.
good. She wants to focus on her new stuff out in Terre Haute, and it was just kind of like, hey, I'm afraid I'm going to drop the ball here or there. I said, hey, let's just call it quits right now, and we'll do some deals out in Terre Haute together and stuff, and you focus on that. In the meantime, Randy was like, man, I miss Dispo. I miss being that salesperson that is talking to our buyers, talking to our investors, and things like that. He's like, I think we can get by without rehiring for Alicia or anything, and I want to take that on and stuff. So Randy is Randy is back in that dispo role. He's still working with our sellers or with our buyers on what they're doing and what they're buying and stuff for us. But he's also working with our sellers now and stuff too.
Yeah.
So doing an amazing job with it. But Randy, talk a little bit about just kind of you kind of moving back into that role. What maybe let's start with this even too. Like what did you miss about talking to all of our buyers, our investors, and just what you're doing on that side of the business, man?
Yeah, dude. So the thing I missed the most overall was just talking with, like, first of all, just meeting new buyers, but having those conversations, which I'm starting to get back into doing now. But basically having those conversations of like, dude, like what's your goals? How can I help you hit your goals? And like, I like, my favorite part of that role was to contribute towards someone's retirement plan, right? So for example, I would meet some people, they say, hey, if I can get to $10,000 passive income through my rentals, I can quit my W-2.
Yeah.
Great. How many properties is that? We talk about that. And I'm like, okay, out of those 15 properties that you're going to need, my goal this year is to get you three of them. And then we can get you to like, yeah, 5-year goal. So I love doing that stuff. Just learning about people's kind of background, how they got into it. And then just building that relationship and just keeping in touch. So yeah, like I said, I've been kind of getting back into that now, which is great because I'm reconnecting with some buyers who I haven't talked to in a while because they've been working exclusively with Alicia. And I'm realizing that they're kind of like their buy box has changed. And I had them in a certain buy box, and talking to them now a year later, a year and a half later, it's completely changed. And it's really cool to kind of hear what people have been up to and what their new goals are. And but yeah, my favorite thing was just interacting with the buyers and just creating those friendships, really.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit since you mentioned like people's buy boxes change. Of I always put this out there, and I always tell people this all the time. Of like if you are a buyer and you are looking for a property in Indianapolis, like make sure you're being proactive about it. Make sure you're talking with any of your property sources, any of their wholesalers, agents, realtor, anybody that you're working with that's sending you deals, sending you properties. Make sure you're being proactive about what you're trying to find and like just kind of getting the deals in front of you. So for that, Randy, like if people are looking for a particular type of deal, like what are some things that they should be doing to when they're working with when they're working with that sales manager, that dispo person, things like that. What are some things they can be doing to be proactive and making sure that you are in the know on what they're looking for?
Yeah, so instead of just the normal, like, hey, here's what I want, one thing that I always encourage them to do is send me the deals that you are buying now. If it's not through me, like send me the last two deals that you bought so I could look at those. If that's still what you're buying, I want to look at them. I want to see the numbers that you purchased it at, so I know, like, I have a clear vision of, okay, this is the price point you want to be in. This is how much you put into that one, and here's how much it's renting for. So that goes a long way for me. because in Indianapolis, like how you have these neighborhoods where you have a certain type of property and they're everywhere in this little pocket. So if I see a house, I can internally, for me, kind of place you in different areas around Indianapolis that I think that you would do well in based off what you're recently buying. So just a case study, right? Send me a case study of a property that you just completed, and I could work with that, and that could pretty much do everything, and then just build off of that.
Yeah. So I just really just recommend doing that for anybody and everybody
Anybody,
that's
yeah,
sending you deals. I always get that kind of feedback of like, well, you guys operate this way and this other wholesaler operates this way. And this, I was like,
yeah,
I don't care. I'm going to be proactive with everybody. I'm going to let everybody know what they said,
yeah,
what they're doing and stuff. And I get a lot of feedback of like, yeah, well, some wholesalers they just email blast it out and they just do highest and best and stuff. Like, that's okay. That's that, that if that's the way they want to handle it, that's fine. But I'm still going to let them know what I'm looking for. Because what's going to happen is they're going to have a buyer fall out at some point. They're going to have something sketchy come up. Something's going to happen. This we all know about anything about the real estate business is that it is inconsistent. If anything, there's going to be some ups, there's going to be some downs, there's going to be things that happen. So I'd
yeah,
say just make sure you're proactive. Let anybody know what you're looking for. Put it out there. And I think that's great of what Randy said too. Of show them the case studies. We get people that say that too. Like, oh well, I bought something off of Amy at New Paradox. I don't want don't that's okay. You're allowed to talk to us about that. Like, what did you buy from her? We want to
yeah,
know like
yeah,
what it is and all those kind of things, or whoever you're buying from. I think it's same thing for Amy. Amy would love to know too if you bought something from
yeah.
us or what did you get. We're all in this together and want to help each
Yeah,
other out.
I'm
So
I'm not concerned at all
yeah,
who you buy from,
don't worry
right?
about hurting our feelings. Yes.
Yeah. I want to know what you're buying so that your next purchase can be from me. That's my
Yep.
goal,
Yep.
and the only way to do that is just to be very clear and concise on what we're talking about, what you're buying, and we'll make it happen. And the one thing that I love doing is meeting people in person.
Yeah.
When people from out of town come in, or just local buyers as well, what I've noticed is after we meet in person, we've got that's the best conversation you can have, is just in person, because everyone's clear, and everyone knows that I know what they're looking for. But one thing I love is that shortly after I usually meet with someone in person, month and a half, whatever it is, like we'll do a deal together
Yeah.
because of that conversation. It's better than just sending an email saying, here's my buy box.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
that's one thing that I love doing, is
yeah.
getting that
Awesome,
deal right
man.
after the meeting.
There you go. So, and you say that too, and it is so true of just sometimes business. It just meeting somebody in person just kind of helps you understand them a little bit better and things too. So, I'm
Yeah.
sure buyers out there in the meeting you for the first time and stuff of just like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, this is who Randy is. This is kind of how he operates. Kind of get to know
Yeah.
his personality a little bit. So, no, good stuff. And I would just say too, from our standpoint, like I love the position that you're in for us, but I love the position you're in for our buyers as well. Because
Yeah.
honestly, like full transparency, Randy controls everything we buy. So I do hold veto power over him. I will say that. But
Yeah, that's true.
he's controlling, like I said, he is their director of sales. So he's overseeing everything on the dispo side, but also everything on the acquisition side. So anything we're getting in a contract, if you're letting him know what you're looking for, what he wants, he knows his reins. He knows how basically his range of whatever he can buy on that acquisition side and when he's working with our team as well. So Randy, can you speak to that a little bit? Just kind of a little
Yeah.
bit about that control that you're holding and kind of that freedom that you have within knowing if you do know what every buyer is looking for and what they need and stuff like that, of
Yeah.
being able to kind of incorporate that on the acquisition side a little bit more than what you were maybe doing before.
Yeah. I mean, I've been talking about that with as I'm reconnecting with buyers, is that I kind of hold a wild card now, because before, when I was in the dispo role, I just saw the properties as they came in through acquisitions. As it kind of popped up on my radar, like, oh, we're buying this house. That's the first time I'd ever hear about the deal. So now what I'm doing is I'm underwriting all the deals that we're buying on the acquisition side. And while I'm doing that, I can now think of buyers who I think, just based on my conversations and what I know about what they're buying, I could kind of say, hey, this is a good property for, John Doe or whoever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And kind of start that initial disposition of that deal as we're analyzing it. So I can, if I know that what John will pay for that, I could use that to our advantage on maybe pushing our numbers a little bit more on the acquisition side, because I know I have a buyer for it already. That's one thing that has helped a lot. And then also, if I'm kind of on the fence of pulling the trigger on a deal that we're buying as a company, I can probably kind of give some like just basic info on the deal to a buyer that I have in mind, say, hey, here's what I'm looking at. I'm on the fence of pulling the trigger on it just because, it could be price, it could be condition, whatever it is. Here's the photos I have. Here's the address. Like, is this something that you think you might want? And they could be like, yeah. And then that would make me feel more comfortable moving on the acquisition side. And then that could possibly be an assignment to somebody, or just, just set it up for them to purchase from us down the road. So it's definitely, I have more intel on some
Yeah.
deals way before I used to have in the past.
Yeah. So, Randy, for somebody that maybe they're listening to this they're new to the podcast, or they're new to us too in general. Can you give us a little rundown, just like how, and I'm not doing this to basically make this a promotion for Simple or anything that we're doing and stuff. Like, I think it is part of it, but I do think we operate a little bit differently than other wholesalers and stuff like that. Is traditionally we actually aren't wholesalers. But can you put that out there a little bit, of just anybody that hasn't worked with you yet or hasn't worked with us yet, like how do we operate, and just kind of what's going on with the way that we run our operation over here?
Yeah. So just kind of from the start, I guess what makes us the big differentiating factor between other wholesalers is like kind of what I tell people is like, I'm a wholesaler by business model, but I'm really like a seller wholesaler hybrid. So we take down every property that we get under contract. We've got all intentions of closing on that deal and taking it down. And 95% of the time, that's what we do. So any deals that we send out to any buyers, any marketing that we do, we actually, like I said, most of the time we own that deal. We own that property. And basically our process is to buy that, get it all cleaned out, put a lockbox on, so that if someone's interested, they could simply go by, check the property out, send a contractor out, send their property manager out, whoever their boots on the ground is, to go check out that deal. They could look at it and make a very safe decision on, yes, this is what I want, because there's nothing in the house. We're not hiding anything. Everything's accessible. So it makes the decision making process on the front end much quicker. There's no middleman. So like I said, since we own the house, we have clear title, so we know that nothing's going to pop up throughout the process at the title company that could hold up closing. There's not going to be any liens or anything to kind of any hurdles to jump over. So if a buyer is really wanting to close in 7 to 10 days, we can actually absolutely make that happen. On the flip side, if they need to close 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road, that's not an issue at all, because we're on the buyer's timeline. We're not on a seller's timeline who we're trying to, assign that contract to. Or we're the seller, you're the buyer. You tell me when you want to close, and you could typically work with that. Because and a lot of this has to do with because we own the property, is kind of like what makes us more flexible. Cash is obviously ideal. We offer seller financing. So not on everything, but anything typically around that $100,000 mark and under, we could seller finance it to you if it's something that you're wanting to flip and you don't want to use all your capital up front. We just do like a 30% down payment. And then we work out the terms as far as, if you want to do a balloon payment, make monthly payments on the property until you sell it. That's all negotiable, but we offer that. If someone wants to use hard money, that's not an issue as well. I would vet the hard money lender a little bit if that's the case you want to do, but because we know there's some good and bad ones out there. But most of the time, if they're coming to us, they're already working with someone reputable. And then also, we've had real estate agents come to us on some properties because they have buyers who want to buy one of our deals, but it's not an investor. It's someone who's actually going to live there and make it their own home. So maybe they'll get conventional financing. That's definitely, we do that all the time too. So the point is, we can work with all different buyers. Obviously cash would be more ideal, but we're flexible in that aspect. But yeah, that's basically in a nutshell. Working with us is we try to keep the simple name true.
There we go. And I will say, just to add on a little thing, that you mentioned the hard money lenders too. Like when you're working with that hard money lenders, like make sure you let us know who that lender is right away. More than likely, we might have a relationship with them already that might help the process out and help it along and stuff, or have seen deals, how they operate on deals. Maybe can give you a little insight on that as well. So no, good stuff. So Randy, I will want to put in here too, of just like, and what do you the world's crashing, right? The real estate industry is over, and we might as well all just pack it up, right? Yeah, so nothing's going on. No, it's crazy.
Mhm.
I'd say like we're coming off one of our best months, having a really solid month and stuff like that. I know Ben Grice put something out yesterday. They had celebrated just a great month too. So the real estate world here in Indianapolis, like it's going well. Things are going well. I do want to talk a little bit of some of the trends that we're seeing, some of the things that we're coming into. But from our Randy, from your standpoint, like buyers have not slowed down, right? So it's one of those things of like I know we kind of say like, hey, there are some buyers out there I know are waiting till everything starts dropping and come back in and start buying again. But honestly, we really haven't seen that slowdown from the buying standpoint yet on our end, have we?
No, overall, things have still been moving along nicely. There's some conversations here and there, like I said,
Yeah,
or like you mentioned, that there's some buyers like, hey, like I'm just being cautious and see what's they're kind of just they're it's kind of like what happened during COVID, right? No one knew. So they're like, hey, I'm just want to see how this shakes out before I start buying again. Same
yeah,
thing with, all the inflation rates rising. They're like, I want to see like where this goes for the next couple months before I, start picking up again. Really, the only some of the slowdowns I've seen is just maybe just from the institutional buyers. I mean,
yeah,
they're the ones that really kind of pumping their brakes and taking a little bit more cautious approach. But just your everyday, buyers, buying a deal here and there, they're still looking. They're still eager, hungry to find a deal and ready to go once they see a good deal pop up. So yeah, we're still definitely in a like Indianapolis as a whole. It's still a seller's market, but you'll find those people here and there that still are trying to say, yeah, we're already in a buyer's market. But Indianapolis in general, we're not there yet.
yeah. Looking into those trends and stuff, it just we're always in the data, and I'm a data nerd, so I love the numbers and I love that kind of stuff and things, and just looking at what we've seen over like really the only thing we've seen, and that's part of our job too within this podcast or any of the whether it's me hosting a show or one of our other hosts is on a show. Like our job is to basically give you guys as much information as we can about what's currently going on in the market, and we'll do our best to do that. But I mean, honestly, the only trends that we're really seeing now they're like people that are putting properties on the market, it's up right now compared to where it was in June, where it was in
Yeah.
May, April, anything like that. Probably people will be in a situation like, oh, is something going on the real estate market? I should probably sell now while I can, get as much for the property as I can and stuff like that. So, that's one of the things I definitely see more people putting properties on the market, but it's also summertime. That always happens every year. So that's not, and that's nothing or out of the ordinary realistically.
Yeah.
The one thing I am seeing a little bit is there's a little bit of the properties that maybe are staying on the market just a little bit longer than what they have been in the past. But honestly, it's not too
It's not
drastic
that
as
long.
compared.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still super quick. I mean, still the average day that something goes from active to pending from basically over the last 3 months before July, it was still like at 5 days. Like that's
Mhm.
insane. So it's leaning, it's going to get up to 6 days. If I look at the third July data in there, it's probably going to be 6 days, maybe a little bit of increase from there. But we're not really seeing it where it's, what people are seeing in the other markets like out west and stuff. Things have slowed down out there. We'll probably see it here in 2 or 3 months, a little bit more, but I don't think it's gonna be as drastic nearly as it is out there or anything like that. So things are
Yeah.
still going pretty quickly. Going from active to good and pending, like I said, it's been 5 days, is what we're averaging right now. So it's still going pretty quick. Average price points are still, they're up. They haven't continued to necessarily rise month after month. I think we kind of leveled off a little bit from where it is, but still we're up, 17% from where we were last year, or anything, which is crazy. Whether that will level off and something, we'll see. It has leveled off. Whether it comes down a little bit, we'll see on that part. But Randy, anything that you're seeing, like as far as the any of the numbers or any of the markets, any the Indianapolis market goes, or just what you're seeing or sensing from buyers as well?
Yeah, I just think the big thing is people just adjusting to normal market numbers. So, like, the market's still good. It's just not a frenzy anymore,
Yeah,
right? Like everyone in real estate has been getting pampered for 2 years, 2 or 3 years of just, I mean, if you're a seller, right? If
yeah,
if you're like, yeah, it was unrealistic for a long time. What we're kind of experiencing now is normal, and it's good and it's healthy and it's what needs to, like, it's normal, like it's still hot,
yeah.
but
It's
it's
still
just
hot. Like I think there were 1,400 properties that sold in the month of June, and
yeah.
800 of them were still over asking. So that, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
we're
still
not. Yeah,
happening.
when I say normal, it's like we're not in a normal market yet. It's still technically a hot market. It's just since the interest rates rose, everyone thinks it's a crash, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's far from that here. So like when I say normal, it's like we're starting to feel that normal activity of, hey, like if you list a property, it's not gonna sell in one day for $20,000 over list price. You're gonna have to, it's gonna take a couple showings, or maybe, 5 days on the market. Then that's when you're reviewing offers. But it's a healthy process, I think, for everyone, because I think you'll see less fallout on deals because people aren't making rash decisions on overpaying for
Yeah.
homes and appraisals coming in low. It's like buyers going to have a window of opportunity to make a decision, and sellers are going to have that window of opportunity to make sure that they're working with the best buyer who's going to buy that property and it's
Yeah.
going to close. That was one thing over the past couple quarters. What I saw, a lot of the back on markets came because appraisals stopped coming in high. They were coming
Yeah.
in low, like $20,000 or $30,000 below contract price. A buyer was only willing to pay maybe 10 grand above appraisal. So there's still a $20,000 difference there. Couldn't get it worked out. The home's back on the market. So I think we'll see less of that now that buyers get a chance to make decisions and make sure that they actually want to move forward with that purchase. But overall, yeah, it's still a hot market, and it's going to be good for everybody. So
Yeah. Kind of just what you were talking on right there. That's the thing I'm most excited for the investors, buyers that we see out there, the ones that we work with, the ones that, we have relationships with. Of We were all in that mode of, oh man, we have to act so quick on this that sometimes we're okay of like, out of every 5 properties I pick up, if I only make a mistake on one of them, I'm okay, because I know I need to, basically the pace was set that I have to move quickly. Now
yeah,
we have that time to be able to like kind of think things through, talk things through, and even, send a do all your due diligence and stuff like that without kind of missing out on a deal that we may have missed out on before because we didn't necessarily have that maybe extra day or something like that that we could get. So
yeah,
I'm really
yeah.
excited for the
So
buyer
yeah,
side.
so if anyone's listening and they're like flipping properties, like that's still a good business model to have. Like, I'm not trying to say like, hey, if you flip a property, like don't expect to sell it for what you want. No, you still have to price it right,
Yeah.
but don't get discouraged if you're not getting, 10 offers the first day, because those days are gone,
Yeah.
especially if you're above that 250 price point. Those are gone.
Yeah.
250 and below in Indianapolis is still really hot, because that's like we just saw today, like that's our average price, like between that 250. There's gonna be buyers all day for that. I don't care what the interest rates are. But once you go above that, you better price your property right, or it will sit, for 14, 21 days, whatever it is, till you
Yeah.
might see an offer. So
Yeah.
don't get discouraged, but just make sure you're priced right and expect, a little bit longer to get that deal done. So
Yeah. If you were that person that like after 5 days you felt like you had to drop your price, like wait 10 days, wait 14
yeah,
days so you drop that price, and then just be a little bit more patient with that. I know I think 2 weeks ago with Stacy and Sterling and Rick, we kind of talked about that. Patience was a big word that was brought up. Same thing. Just make sure you're patient with stuff and kind of let things go. Cause that's definitely what we're seeing. I'm hearing those conversations all the time where somebody's like, oh my gosh, it's not going to sell. It's not, I'm not getting all the offers that I want, but be patient with it, and you'll still get, maybe you won't get as many offers, but you'll have a couple offers at the price you want, because there are definitely buyers out there for that right now in Indianapolis for anything really. Probably, I don't know, Randy, what you said before, but I think anything under 300, like there's going to be buyers out that for whatever it is. So
yeah.
you get above that, you're a little bit more of a specialty buyer and stuff like that, depending on the area and things. But yeah.
I mean, it's just, yeah, just that the affordability kind of goes down with the rate, so that your buyer pool kind of shrinks. But I mean, usually people from like what we see, like they're usually flipping homes in that $200,000 to $400,000 range.
Yeah.
That's safe. If you're focused on high end, $1 million homes, that's different.
Yeah. So, Randy, a couple of weeks ago, we got the opportunity to go out to the Collective Genius, a mastermind that we're a part of and stuff. And it was really interesting because going into it, we're like, oh man, what's everybody going to be saying about the market? Well, that's what everybody's focus was, and everybody's concerned and everything. But really coming out, man, I felt just like so much better. I know I was put at ease of like, oh man, we're set for this. Like we're built for this.
Mhm.
Like our business is made for this kind of thing. Number one, we do have our processes in place and we're pretty set up. We have a solid operation thing, so we're set up for things like this. No matter what the market does, we're able to shift. But honestly, coming out of that, I'm like, man, being a buyer in this market, like I'm really excited about what could be coming, that maybe people missed out on, like 2008. I know that was one of my big takeaways. But what are you thinking, and what were some of maybe your takeaways from CG this time?
Yeah, I mean, you and I talked about it kind of like on the trip back home, but yeah, I was kind of in the same boat, like going in, especially like the first day of CG, everybody was talking about the downturn. So you're waiting for like these, like just to get prepared for just like this big crash. And then as kind of like the week goes, it was more about, hey, like here's your opportunity to capitalize on what's to come. And really, my big takeaway was have a plan if things go south.
Yeah.
So, anything that you can, kind of anything that's not really performing for you is like from an investor standpoint, like cash out on those properties and make sure you've got some money on hand. But then the ones that are performing well, like don't panic, like keep those properties there working for you. Um, just cut the fat in some areas where you may be wasting money. Get that money back in your bank, and prepare. Just have a preparation plan for something that kind of like doomsday, right?
Yeah.
Which probably won't happen, but it's just, hey, like just it's we're seeing all the signs to prepare for something that could happen. And if you're prepared, once a crash does happen, you're going to be fine. But then on the flip side, there's going to be opportunity as an investor to be able to pick up some really good deals.
Yeah. Definitely. If something does happen, like what property are you going to sell? What price are you willing to take for it? All the just kind of going through those different scenarios and stuff. But this is one of the best things about Indianapolis is like it's like, I think it's going to come, it's going to fluctuate, it's going to come up and down a little bit, and
Yeah.
it will come down, but it's we're as I was just talking about, like our business is made for this. Like the Indianapolis market is made for this as well. So
Yeah, and
it's
that's my favorite thing about our market here is that
yeah,
it's in hard times we're not hit that hard as far
yeah,
as like a overall market versus the rest of the nation
yeah.
or the coasts.
Yeah, part of the CG this time was we got to had a presentation like for 3 hour presentation of from one of the the nation's leading economists as well on just the state of the market and what he's seeing and things like that, how it compared to 2008 and what we're seeing now too. Randy, was there any big takeaways for you? Listening to him and just kind of seeing what with the data he was providing of like the difference between 2008 and now of anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean it's just not the same. I mean it's
Yeah,
it's a totally different picture. So basically, my big takeaway was what we're going through now. It's just like my opinion after hearing him is that we're not going to go through a crash. It's things are just going to flatten out for as far as like market value goes and home values. And I'm just not. I left CG after hearing him feeling very optimistic about the future of the market. So
right.
it's just, yeah, just overall it's just not the same. I can't compare the two because it's just not the same scenario.
Yeah. So, and obviously we can't predict for anything like a COVID or a possible war. We can't prepare anything. Like nobody can predict any of that stuff. Nobody can prepare for any of that stuff and things. But as far as the market goes, of like all the things that were happening back in 2008, it is different now, and things are different. I know one of my big takeaways is like one of them numbers that I'm really paying attention to right now, more than some of the others, are how many foreclosures are hitting the market and stuff. So that was like kind of a big standout for me of kind of what's going to happen with that, of how many people will actually be foreclosed on and how many people, need to will take advantage or kind of be proactive before that foreclosure and stuff like that. So that's gonna be an interesting standpoint of like kind of the number that I'm watching for the Indianapolis market and stuff, and kind of keep comparing that back to 2008 and see what's going on and things. But Randy, as far as the market goes, or just any tips for any buyers, anything like that, any last little words of wisdom that you want to throw in here before we jump off?
um yeah, so if you're one of the buyers that you're just cautious because you just want to see how things go, I would encourage you to still, like, if you see an opportunity come across your plate, like don't hesitate to grab it, because it's you gotta act in the now, right? I know no one can predict the future, but if I just wouldn't want to see anyone pass up on a good deal just because they're unsure of where the market might be in a year.
Yeah,
If you're a buyer looking for, and you're still doing like your long-term buy and holds for rentals, keep doing what you're doing. It's the rents are going up here. So, people can cash flow just as well as any other time. If you are looking at, if you're someone flipping homes, maybe in the near future, I know like the big thing when you're looking at comps, to price your property, you usually look at your sold comps, right? If we ever get to that point in the next year or so where we are kind of shifting into our buyer's market, like officially, your kind of your new comp plan is to look at actives too, because if we're in a buyer's market, that's your competition. Price yourself slightly below them to guarantee your sale, and you don't want to be sitting on something. So also look at solds and actives in your market too. So, and really just pay attention, reach out to your agent and whoever you trust on just market conditions. Keep your finger on the pulse, and let's kind of see where it goes. But I'm excited about the rest of this year. And yeah, it's a good time still.
Awesome stuff. Great stuff, Randy. Really appreciate you joining me on here today and giving your insights, man. Fantastic. If you need anything from me, don't hesitate to reach out, Brian at simplewholesaling.com. Or if you are interested in a property or need anything from Randy, hit him up at Randy at simplewholesaling.com. So we're here for you. Use us as a resource. And with that, that's a wrap for this episode of the Indy Investor Pod. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.